everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, which is going to be about engaging attendees through immersive experiences this year, 2025. I am Claire Forestier. I'm going to be your host. I am a B2B event MC. I also train speakers, and I'm just basically an all-round advocate for making events less boring and much more engaging. So we all know that event engagement has really changed, and the immersive experiences are what are leading the charge in transforming how we connect with our audiences. So we're going to be looking at what that means for event planners, marketers, and businesses who want to create great experiences in 2025. So I'm really excited that we are joined by an expert in this space, Noelle Feist, who's the Senior Director of Experiential Marketing at Zendesk. So Noelle has about 15 years of experience doing this, maybe more. We round it down, don't we? I find the older I get. All about high impact events, accelerating the pipeline, building love for the brand, and deepening those customer relationships. You are around the flagship programs that Zendesk does, Relate, their global showcase series, and you also head up Zendesk Center of Excellence for Events. So you are clearly the go-to person. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you, Claire.
Well, before we start the conversation, just to say a big thank you to Eventcombo, who's hosting today's session on the Fireworks platform. Fireworks is something totally different. Eventcombo is all about making event experiences seamless and engaging, so perfect for the topic today. So Noelle, I'm going to start by asking you about your job, what you do at Zendesk, and what a typical event planning day might look like to you.
Of course. I think it's important to just give a little context about Zendesk and what we do. Zendesk is a global leader in customer experience innovation. So our products will transform engagement through automation, AI products, and omnichannel experiences. So what that means in short is the people that use our product are making exceptional experiences for their customers. So it's my job at Zendesk to make sure that we are paving the way on what exceptional experience looks like at our events. So talk about pressure. We have to have innovative ways to make sure everything's engaging, everything is a positive experience, questions get answered quickly. That's all top of mind when we're designing experiences for people who put on and work really hard every day to put on exceptional experiences. So a day in the life as an event leader and event planner is never the same. I think we all know that. We work on an annual calendar, but that annual calendar is also 3 years in advance. So it's whatever event is next month and also next year. That's top of mind. But we also do, have prioritized which events are the top and which ones we put all of our effort into. So I think for most of the questions that we'll be going through today, I'll be referencing our larger flagship events where we're targeting that customer base in the thousands and making sure we're putting on a multi-day immersive experience that keeps them coming back year over year because they know we're going to come up with something exciting and amazing and engaging that they look forward to.
You've got to sort of hone it down to one thing, haven't you, that you're working on, otherwise we'll get too confused. And as you say, there is no one working day in an event planner. You wish there was sometimes, I'm sure. And it's an interesting one you lay there where experience is so key to everything you do, because the people that are your clients, the people that you talk to at events, are all about the absolute best experience in their businesses, for their customers. So you can't let anything slip. That's really tough. I want to remind everybody as well, if you've got questions for Noelle, please just put them into the chat so that we can share them with her and see what's coming up. Okay, immersive experience is something that we're talking about a lot. Experiential, immersive, these are words that didn't even exist a few years ago in events. So let's kind of nail that down, because it means different things to different people. In your perspective, what does immersive mean when it comes to event engagement?
Beautiful way to set the stage for this conversation. I think, immersive experience, it includes those flashy, tech forward portion, but it also is mainly about creating deep, interactive, multi-sensory, personal experiences for the audience that really helps bring them on an emotional level, an intellectual level, and fosters connection that will really tap into that, memory sense that they've learned something exciting, they've left with something new, but they really feel like they've experienced something in all of those different, sensory angles. And that's really what immersive is to me. It's, the combo of technology, but storytelling and visual design, and all of those things need to be in the forefront of the mind when you're planning an event.
Because we do talk about AR and VR and stuff like that when we hear the word immersive, because we live so digitally now that we think, well, that's the way, get people into the game, that kind of thing. But it's much more than that, isn't it? So how should we balance this amazing technology that's now available with actually just the fact that we just want people to be more humanly engaged at the event?
Yeah, it's we are on that totter and that balance with AI really at the forefront of so many things right now. We want to make sure everyone is leveraging AI, VR, AR, and at the same time having that human connection, that human interaction at the forefront. So definitely a balance. And then I think it's really important to understand your audience and know what they want. There are so many different technologies available for you to up-level your event and bring in things like VR and AR. For me specifically, AI is the forefront of our product, and it's something that, I want to lean into when it comes to events, because it's products that our own customers adopt. They want to see AI in action. And, there's a lot of new ways. And I think in the AI space specifically, we're going to see more and more experiential activations come up rapidly this year. Next year, it will expand a lot. There's certain small ways that we, engage AI, but then there's also, activations where you can engage with an AI bot that will draw your face, or a bot that will, makes you a cup of coffee. So it's balancing, are they the experiences that are going to make the event fun, or is it experiences that are really going to, help leverage data, which I think we might get into, to help create the right experience. And that's where AI can really serve in both those angles.
So it's almost like it's not the technology doesn't have to be something that they're almost interacting with themselves, but it's helping you as the organizer to kind of get to them, to personalize it to them. So they could still turn up and have a very human-centered experience that doesn't involve loads of technology as far as they're aware, and yet it's the technology that has meant that experience is so amazing, because that's what makes the difference. When I think of the word immerse, it's like when you know someone's immersed in what you're saying, when they're totally looking at you, they're not sidetracked by their phone or whatever else is going on. Literally, chaos could be going on around them, but they're so into what you're doing. And that old-fashioned sense of being completely immersed in something that we really want, that's when we know they've got the most out of the event. And yet I find so many business events that I go to are relying on this very traditional passive attendance, people sitting and listening. So there's a balance whereby that's a traditional event, and that is a way to deliver a lot of content quickly, but it's trying to find ways to get the immersed, kind of fascinated attendee look with making them part of the event, but they're still learning loads. There's still a place for the content to be delivered.
Yep, exactly.
So I know that you're really into the tech-driven personalization idea. And obviously we talk about personalizing events because that's what it's like. Why should I, Claire, or I, Noelle, turn up to this event? What is in it for me? What does it look like in practice? How are you, maybe give me an example of how you're using AI and data to craft a very specific journey?
Absolutely. There's a lot of different ways. So data, we should be leveraging data every year, because every year we need to be building on and improving and making new experiences. And the best way to do that is know how you had a slam dunk the previous year, and also where your misses were. And, I think it's important to really focus on both. You don't want to let go of things that worked really well and just focus on the things that didn't, or you might over index. So there's quite a few ways. There's, the smart badges where, it has RFID, and you can see, you designed a whole event experience over 3 levels, but where were people hanging out the most? And if it seems like it's all in one area, is that what you want? Do you lean into that area, or do you actually create things that will draw them to experience your space the following year in a different way? We leverage a lot of data when designing our experiences for the following year. I'm going to give 2 examples. One specific one is just as simple as, surveying your customers. And at a previous role, we would survey attendees before they came to the event, the ones that have signed up, and ask them why they're coming, because it's important to know that. And there was a lot of different options, and every single year, the reason why someone committed to paying and coming to the event was for education. They wanted to learn. The second one was for networking, and the third one was for inspiration. So then we did the same exact questions after they attended the event, because we wanted to know what was the most valuable part of attending the event and how did that compare to, why they signed up. And every single year, the number one reason is actually inspiration. No one really wants to pay for inspiration. It's a hard thing to say you're committing is just to be inspired, but it is such a powerful thing that comes out of these experiences that we create. So that's what we design for. We are going to bring the content. We are going to make sure that education they're paying for, and that's the reason they're able to sign up and come, is exceptional. And we are bringing in the best speakers for that. But those best speakers are most likely interactive speakers that are having them talk to their neighbor and see what their neighbor's doing. And they leave from all of those micro conversations, all of the content, all of the engagement and interactions. The best thing is they leave with that inspiration to go make change and make action. And I find that amazing about events. It's kind of why I love to thrive. And then one more way of, engaging with technology is, I happen to work for an amazing tech company, and we, as our team, is planning to leverage our own product to create an exceptional experience for our customers. So we plan to use a chatbot, one that any, of our team servicing customer experience probably uses daily. But instead of needing to walk those 3 floors to that welcome desk where they checked in and ask that one random question they have, or search for the person in the bright orange shirt and ask where they can go for this, we want to make it super easy so they can open their phone at any point and just ask that question. And the same people that staff that help desk, are able to answer questions that a bot can't easily ask that we put in there. And that's going to give them that ability to get their questions asked immediately, find the answers they need immediately, make their support seamless. And we're doing that through leveraging our own technology. But the best part about it that I'm the most excited about is data. So we, at the end of the event, will get to see all of the questions that came in and where are we missing the mark on our know before you go information. Maybe if everyone can't find this one thing, we make sure that's really spelled out in an email the next year, or there's an alert about it, or the main question might be something we never thought was going to be a question. We're able to design a better experience the following year knowing those volumes of questions. And I don't feel like you get that when someone just walks up to a help desk or walks up to someone in the staff shirt and asks them that question. So I'm super excited to not only leverage our own product, create a better experience, but have that data to then turn it into better design the next year.
Well, it's kind of a triple whammy, isn't it? Because it's so great getting your question asked really quickly without getting that kind of, I've got to go find those people and maybe that person won't know. And then also your staff, when they're really busy on the day at the event, they might not write down every question that they were asked, so you're not going to have it. But also being able to show off your brand and your product by what you do. It's an excellent example. The idea that we've talked about when we sort of discuss the word sensory and experiential. I always feel weird saying sensory.
I know.
It's a rude word. How can you use that kind of lighting, the sound, the scent? Do you see that? Can you measure that with data, or is it just like we made that place smell great and it was so popular? Or how else are you using that, and how does it really enhance the experience?
I think sensory is such a broad term for all the different ways that you can really tap into creating an experience that really hits on an emotional level. And doing that throughout the day and creating, designing intentionally a positive emotional experience is something you have to do to get them to leave with that inspiration at the end of the day. So we do it in many different ways. Smell is a sensory that there's so much data for event planners to know that it really does tap into the experience for the attendee and set a new stage. And there's some really cool ways we've played with smell in the past. I'll give a quick example. At our last event, we, really want to showcase our customers and how they use our products and how they're successful versus just saying, here's our product and it works really well. You want to hear it from another customer, but we did that in a super exciting sensory way. We partnered with one of our customers, Urban Stems in New York, and they have amazing flowers delivery service. And so we set up this beautiful area of all of these 5 different unique bouquets. We showcased how, the product has really helped them with their own customer service. And then we used our own, bot technology to have the attendees engage with, all of these fun questions, almost like a Cosmo quiz, that put them into what bouquet is best for them. And they were able to engage with our product. They were able to, see a customer story in real time. But imagine, this entire room filled with beautiful flowers, but it's big, it's open, so it doesn't overpower. It really just made it a lovely, fresh feeling, visually, sensory. And then it was also an amazing experience because they got to use our technology in action. They got to see how it's helped other people, and they got to leave with a takeaway that also helps with that sensory emotion. We have our big event coming up in the end of March, so I won't say which customer it is, but it's also one that really has these products that are incredible scents, and we're really excited to display those and showcase them and have another similar experience where you're seeing not only how our product has helped this customer, but you're learning about the customer, and you are visually seeing this amazing setup, and it's this oasis from the normal tech conference ballroom that you generally see. I think location plays into sensory. People want an exciting memory from your experience, so picking a place that they're excited to go to, where they'll see something they haven't seen before, and they can come back and talk about their trip, is honestly part of the sensory experiential design and a big part of the decision. And I'd say lastly, lighting is extremely important, and it comes into play throughout the entire event. From where you set your, welcome registration, it should be bright and airy and fun and exciting to see those smiling faces welcoming you. If you're in a session, your content, the lighting needs to be a little dim so you can see it, but at the same time, you don't want to be in a dark cage, and you don't want to blow out anyone's retinas from this bright white screen if it's a dark cave. So finding the right balance where people aren't, feeling like they're tired because they're going to a dark cave, but then also things are too bright, is a really intentional thing we do with all of our templates that we provide to speakers or to our own internal speakers to make sure that's a positive experience. And then the expo hall that they're going to spend a lot of time in, that's the place where it's like, you can't have those bright fluorescent lights, or you don't want to be in there, but you also can't have it too dark and have it be this cave when you're already kind of exhausted from all the content that you're bringing in. So designing warm, energy experiences to keep people's energy going is really important when you're creating all of those immersive experiences.
It's really trying to control as many elements as you can. I mean, obviously with every event, they're different. So if you are in a big expo and there is the limitations of it, your particular activations or your particular stands, you can affect that. You can change the lighting and the smell and the whatever, and that attracts people to it. I also love the way with the flower one, you're being able to promote the services of the brand that you're running the event for, your company, but you're also being able to do that through the case study, which is so much more, just an easier way to promote yourself than having to sell at an event, which is really uncomfortable and nobody really loves it. And this way you're really able to promote the benefits that someone else is getting. You're getting everybody to walk away with a bouquet and the smell and the sound and the light and that loveliness of maybe being at a B2B event and suddenly being surrounded by flowers and really beautiful fresh flowers. What a treat. But also that's the immersiveness that they're really into that, and it's something they've not experienced normally. There's so many different things you can tie in there. I love that, so many different ways. Now, we're starting to get some questions coming in, which we'll come to in a minute. I wanted to talk about the other thing that I suppose is one of my absolute pet kind of subjects. Is around the sort of terrible word, it doesn't really make sense to anyone really, networking, but the human contact at events. And this is something that gets a slot is put in the agenda, a space is put in for it. You're conscious that everybody is coming to your in-person event because that's the one thing that they're not going to get at an online event. So they're coming back to you, regardless of all the lovely experiences that you're providing. They want to meet other human beings and connect with them. But how do you do it in a really kind of new experiential sense? How do you get all those elements into the networking side of it?
Absolutely. You're 100% right. Networking is some of the most valuable pieces of the event you're designing. You could bring in the best educators in the world and have amazing content, but it's going to be that random conversation with someone that's doing the same thing as them, that solved this one random problem that their CEO really needs them to do, that gives them that light bulb of an idea to go make, really strong action. And at the end of the day, they still attribute that exciting inspiration, actionable item to you bringing them together and setting the stage for you to meet that person. But, networking is something that needs to be thought of through the entire entire event. I see a lot of times where, networking is on the schedule and that's what it is. And that's the design networking time. And after that, it's back to sessions and it's not really, organically brought through the whole event. So I think
No, it's just shove them in a room and they should meet somehow.
Yeah.
That works really well.
It's important to bring the right people together, both structured and organically, because people prefer different ways of networking. They prefer different, they want to meet just one person. They don't want to sit at a table with 5 people. Maybe they're an extreme introvert and then you're with an extrovert and that person's dominating the conversation for their own problems to solve for the full hour and you didn't really get your set in. So I think it's important to still do those activities, but think about how they're going to show up in all the different ways for your event. So, there's so many different ways to do that. I think about, gamification is always fun for everyone, but if there's a way that they can do it together and see someone and work as a team, that's a super important way to do it. We do structured networking. It is important to have those times, but we go beyond the round table, diving into things like the speed networking where, you structurally are having those one-on-one conversations, but also think about the timing of that. That needs to happen in the beginning of the event. So they've met all these people, they see them in their sessions, they see them at the networking events and can easily be like, oh, I know you, and continue a conversation. There's, wearable, identified conversation starters that really help someone, whether it be a bracelet or a coffee sleeve, so you can walk around and have someone else agree to wear the same thing and say, yeah, let's talk about this. I'm this person. What about you? And finding those ways to have those more organic conversations throughout the whole event is really important. And then, of course, leveraging technology to do so is really important. You can need to do AI-powered machine lounges or matchmaking lounges where you really put in your interests and it matchmakes you with another attendee and you go for a coffee break and learn through that. And then I think, one area of opportunity I'd love to dive into more is business cards seem to be a thing of the past. Like, not a lot of people bring them to events anymore. I know there's QR code business cards, those don't work half the time, but really using that technology to help, connect someone, but make it simple for you to get their information and have that follow up after. Because a lot of times you might have that great conversation that sparks that idea, but you might want to ask them a follow-up question about how they implemented it, and not being able to find that attendee that really gave you that light bulb moment can be a little frustrating. So I'd love to, even talk with more people about better ways to get that sharing of information of all those people you network with. I went to an event as an attendee last year and it was, I went by myself and met a lot of new people and I'd have to really just kind of look them up and LinkedIn in the moment and try and connect with them then. So I'd say we all need to, continue leveraging to the technology that makes the follow-up of those connections even easier.
No, I know people are developing them. It's that idea that, because actually before, when you did walk away with a business card, and I've got a business card, I've got an Amazon gift card, but I used to write on them, blonde hair, had 3 kids, was going on holiday to Honolulu the next day or whatever, because that would be the connection. So there is something that is, come on, app developers and clever people out there, come up with a way that we can quickly say, I met Noelle, she was this, she was that, I need to, that's going to feed back to you. But that idea about the team, getting into teams and the game playing, I try and use that a lot in events that I'm hosting, because you could just see how a load of people who came into the room not knowing anyone have just had some form of bond created, someone they sort of know, which helps for the rest of the event. And obviously when you're playing with very key people who specifically come to meet people, you obviously make them go into those teams. And as soon as you're in a team with someone, that sort of bonding, fraternal feeling comes in and you get to know them better, don't you? You feel that. It's so important. Now the questions are coming thick and fast.
Yeah.
Whilst I have a look at those, I want to just sort of mix it up a bit, ask you some kind of fun questions around events, see if that kind of works with the inspiration as well. So if you had a opportunity to host an event anywhere, where would you host an event?
That's a fun one. I'll think through like landmarks that really attract me. I would go with like the Sydney Opera House. It's so stunning, both inside and out. How cool would it be to get to put on an event and bring those experiences to life and lean into impeccable sound, impeccable audio visual and create that immersive experience where it's, not only a fun place to go, creates that memory, but it's truly, a landmark that we'd be privileged to get to do an event.
I think that's on my bucket list, definitely. If you could to host an event at Sydney Opera House and then manifest that, put that out. You run it, I'll host it. Brilliant. Let's get that happening. And what about the coolest event experience you ever had? And everyone's cool is different. What sticks with you?
For me, it's connections and it's the people that I meet. That's what makes these events cool. If we just come off of our networking conversation. So coolest thing, I've been fortunate enough to bring in a ton of celebrity speakers and get to work with their teams. I think working with Michelle Obama's team twice was a really fun experience because there's so much work up front and on the back end, and then meeting her in person, being so humble.
Oh, wow.
Just a really fun experience to manage and get to do, and one that I'll continue to cherish.
Yeah, I bet. Sometimes I think though, with me, like the coolest experience, you can sort of say like, oh, I met Kermit the Frog at this event, or I did that. But actually, the one when I remember going to one, and it's an organisation that they do it every year, and it's an association of members, and they have groups of people that come from all over Europe. And they said, oh, those guys over there, they're an Italian company. They never get involved. They always just they come every year, so they obviously like it, but they're never really involved. At the end of an event, them coming up to me and saying, those Italian guys, did you see them? Look at them. They're really involving and they're talking to people they've never talked to before. And that to me was, we've managed to do something cool, some game playing that had made them kind of come out of their group and talk to others. And they all left and said, that was the first event in 10 years that I've met more than just my group. And so that was, for me, that kind of sticks as a really cool thing. It's different to everybody, isn't it? Okay, my other question for you is, what is the one thing event planners should stop doing in 2025?
Number one thing, passive content, but that's always a thing, right? Like, we have to be interactive. We have to be doing polling and working with the audience we're looking at. But I would have to say, not doing the same event again. If you want everyone to come back, and that is a little plug, Claire. I don't know if you have some things to build off there.
Well, I have a podcast called Not the Same as Last Year, based along that line of just come out of your comfort zone, guys, and move forward. There's so much stuff. You don't need to do the same thing, and use the data wherever you are in the world, and collect it, and it will just force you to do something different most of the time, won't it? Now, if you had an unlimited budget, we know you're going to go to the Sydney Opera House. What else would you do? What else could you do? Maybe there's been a time when you wanted to do something, you just didn't have the budget. What would that be?
Gosh, that is so hard because, there's all the context, but if I had unlimited budget, it would be so fun to have the chance to lean, like you see all these amazing AR, VR, AI experiences, and you want to bring them all to everyone, but they do cost a lot of money. So I would love to put on an event for event people where we can bring in the best of all of these, up and coming technologies, get to experience them ourselves so that we can identify, is it really the right thing for our audience? We experienced it first. If we're spending unlimited budget there, I'd love a way to figure out how we're giving back.
I love the way that, so your unlimited budget would be spent on event planners essentially, because that's often the case. You work with an industry where they're all sort of looking for the top customer experience. So when you run an event, you're giving them the top customer experience. I do find that a lot of events for the events industry, you don't get the best experience because they're kind of like, that's not what you need to know. You need to just know to meet all these people to help you have a good event. But then your experience as the attendee in those events isn't. So I love that. Very generous offer when you have your unlimited budget to run it for event planners to have the best experience ever.
Yeah, implementing new technology can always be a risk. So getting to experience it first, seeing it work really well, I'd say that would be a dream.
Yeah, that's the way. And finally, we've kind of obviously we're going to come to questions, people, don't worry. But just my final kind of quick fire questions to you. When we've talked about, what do you think immersive really means for events in 2025? If you are just starting to go, maybe we need to be a bit more immersive. What should they be doing?
Immersive is intentionally designing those interactive, multisensory, personalized experiences. Everyone wants things to be personal now, and we have the tools and technologies to measure that and do that for them and create experiences that works for multiple different audiences, works for different personalities, and find the ways that every type of audience member and personality can still experience your content, experience your activations, experience the event flow design that you've spent so long creating, and leave after going through those different multisensory experiences with so many exciting actions, inspiration. And we can't do it by by doing the same things we've continued doing. We have to continue to build on that and evolve on that with all of the new technology that comes out, but also continuing to do that design thinking on how to get everything more immersive. For us, sessions cannot be stand and deliver, whether that be we just have paddles for people to be able to answer yes or no, or this is a problem for me, and be able to have that speaker, design what they're about to say based off of the current people in the room, using technology to show how many people are at a certain level or here for a certain problem, can help design that content to be more fitting for the audience out there. So we need to be leaning into all of those different modalities.
It's an interesting one though, because people get put off. They think, how am I going to make it immersive? We've got so many people in this audience. And it is just the paddles, just the even being able to being asked a question, where are you on this journey? I know that a lot of talks and events last year around AI, and the one that hit me was the guy had really, do you put yourself in this box, this box, this box, or this box? So he could immediately gauge the audience knowledge. They also felt heard, even though they weren't all going to get a question, because someone had at least, yes, I fit in there. I can tick that. I feel okay. And then I know he's going to acknowledge a part of, he said, like, a few of you, only a very few of you were in this box, but I'm not going to ignore you. We are going to come to where you are. And so that person could sit back and go, okay, I'm going to get my question answered. And they weren't actually on the stage. They weren't sticking their hand up, but they were still part of it. So those are so many simple ways to do that. And you are using all the technology that's out there in the little different ways you can based on your budget. You're not having to go full glitzy immersive, but you're still getting that sense in. I'm going to go to the audience questions now. There's some of those are covered. So let's try to go back to the first one. Okay, so I'm measuring the success of your immersive event experience. Are you asking specific questions around each activation, or at the end are you asking them to sort of sign up mark out of 10 how involved they felt? How do you ask the question, and what tool could you measure it with?
Yeah, so there's multiple different ways to measure it, and you have to, what can you invest in? You can do RFID, but that is very expensive, and some of us don't have the budget for that, because that would obviously say where people spent time, where they didn't, if they left sessions, and you could dive into that session and say, wow, so many people left early. Like, what was that experience like? So RFID is great for all of that data, but it is super expensive and might not be in all of our budgets. So with that, exactly, it's really about asking the right questions and asking the right questions at the right time. Can you do surveys throughout the event in the app? That's asking, how are you enjoying the expo? What could be better? How is the temperature in these rooms? You can ask questions during the event. And then on our post-show surveys, we really like to dive into the different areas. So we don't just say, how was your overall experience? That's not super helpful for us. We will ask, what was your experience like in this session, in this expo area, for this ancillary event? We give them the opportunity to put in real-time feedback versus just selecting their rating. And we can analyze those at the end of the day and put everything into action. And ultimately, everyone that you have on your staff running the event, I really like to talk to them up front and train them up front that you are the key to making this event successful year over year, and all of your insights into how people are doing it. There is a lot of anecdotal insights that are super helpful that need to be written down in real time, because they will be forgotten by day 3 or day 2, that you can put into action the following year that maybe the attendee didn't say, but you noticed, not a lot of people seem to be in this room. I don't know, was it dark? Was it scary? Was it weird? Etc. So and then if you're investing in immersive experiences, I didn't even get to, all of the sensory things, but a lot of people have sensory overload at events and creating calm spaces. And I got to tour the Allegiant Stadium, and there was a wonderful sensory box you can go in and just take a moment away from all the crowds. But if you're investing in things like that, ask, did you go in it? Did you utilize it? Was it helpful? How can we make that?
Know about it? Half the time we didn't know about it.
Yeah, you build these things and not everyone knew about it, and it's in a weird location. So you have to ask the questions. Some people won't tell you, and you have to do it in multiple ways: surveys, real time, afterwards, and of course, empowering your staff to be that real time, note taker of how to make your event successful.
Now, it's a good point you mentioned. You can't just rely on a survey that comes on an email the next day. You've got to be asking the questions a lot more.
If you set up that calm room, a sensory station, ask them right when they leave. Is it the way out?
When they love the world again. Yeah,
exactly. And that will have the data to prove year over year, this was rated a 5. We can't not do that, but how can we do it better? How can we do it different to make sure they have those surprise and delights each year?
Yeah, no, I love that. So the next question we've got is how can event planners integrate the AR and the VR without making it feel forced? Which is interesting.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
I think we all have a lot of pressure, to put on the most tech forward, exciting events. And yet we also all have budgets and we have to prioritize, like, are we putting it into the, main stage experience where attendees are going to be all the time? Or is it on the expo where they can see, all of these experiences? So for me, it's hard to answer that question because to integrate it well, it needs to be audience specific. CES, everything should be AR and VR. People expect those amazing experiences when you engage with the booth, and that there is a lot of pressure to make sure that you're showing up with it there. For your own customer, will it feel like you put, too much money into all of these VR, AR activations and not enough money into the networking experience or the ancillary events that really felt personalized for me? So I really do think you have to, know your audience. What do they want? And if you do want to bring AR, VR experiences, it still needs to be tailored to those people. Bring in something that will help serve their purpose. How are they going to help their own customers? Are we going to help them show the future of service? And if so, then that's perfect. Let's leverage that technology to show them that. But it has to make sure that it fits for your audience. And you're not just being gimmicky and bringing in all the activations for activation's sake.
And that's so important, that kind of tech for tech's sake, which I think so many people have fallen into the trap of. I always remember someone saying to me 2 weeks before an event, and they said, "Oh, Claire, you go to lots of events. Can you tell us about like a really exciting piece of tech that's going to blow people's minds?" And I was like, that's not the question. The question is, we really want people to feel this at our event. Do you have any ideas for something extra that's going to bring that feel in, or something? But they hadn't got what they wanted this tech to do, apart from a wow, which, and it was like, it was completely irrelevant for their audience. And, I think she probably got cross with me sort of saying, that's not the right question. And it's like, if AR and VR and any technology is not what your guys are going to want and enjoy or benefit from, there's no need to spend the money there. As you say, spend it on making their networking experiences better, or spend it on, the technology that will help them feel immersed in the actual content session. So yeah, really, I love your answer there. That's great. Now, someone's wanting a memorable networking activity or session that was really successful for your attendees. Can you come up with one?
Yeah, I'll come up with two. Yeah. We, have done, networking pods or birds of a feather, but essentially asking attendees ahead of time if they want to have us strategically put them in meetup groups so that they can meet people in the beginning of the event and meet up each day and kind of like create a little pod in that way of networking. And, I have to say that was super impactful for many, but it's hard because it's very pod specific. So we had to put in a lot of, backups of if, only 2 people show up to one pod, this pod's going to merge with this pod. You never know who's actually going to show up. But for the people that really did engage with, yes, I want to be, assigned a networking group from the beginning, and we held space for them coming together and meeting that first day. And each day would be like, hey, what do you guys want to do? Do you want to do coffee in the morning the next day? Or do you guys want to meet, at the specific area of the party tonight? Or how about we all do lunch over here in a table? And it's like giving those people that maybe don't get to come with a colleague an immediate group where they get to know 5 or 7 people really well. And so that we got exceptional feedback on. And it's a great way to, have continuous networking, but help people meet their people from the beginning. And then for the masses, I do think that the speed networking with a little bit of almost a bingo card game is exciting. So did you meet someone who had this random thing happening? So not only is it you're quickly meeting people one-to-one, so both of you have that chance to have that conversation and share a little about yourself, but you've gamified it and you've been able to, meet people who have this one specific thing or who have had this experience with a customer before, and mark off your bingo card and get excited when you meet that person. And then you'll remember that person when you run into them at the coffee bar. And, you were my, horrible experience with this person bingo card, and you start talking.
They're so important. And what the link between all of those is you're getting a little human connection really quickly with different people. It kind of reminds me of when you go to school or when you go to camp or something, you'll just put in a little group of people. So even if they're not going to be your best friends in the whole world, you've just got something, they're in my team. It makes you feel connected. And I think we really forget. We all grow up and we go into businesses, but we still need that. I just wanted to share another one that might be of use to people, is particularly when you're trying to have conversations going and you're trying to match what people might want to to talk about is have different conversations in different areas that you've marked. You can't do this in a massive event, but in a mid-size event. And people can go in and out of a conversation. They don't have to stay. They can leave. You can have just two people having it, other people watching it. And almost the rules are there's no rules. These are where they are. You can come in, you can get involved, you can drift away. There's no sense of embarrassment. So people felt really easily able to flow away and in. And on each group, there was a board where you could make notes or add something. So even if you didn't want to contribute to the conversation, you could say something and your voice would be heard, your question would be seen and discussed by the group. And I think that's really good if you've got a lot of people with potential, maybe they're too shy to talk, or they're too busy to talk, or there's a language barrier. They can sit and listen. They don't have to speak if they don't want to.
And that's back to the, networking is really dependent on the personality and what they want out of it and who they want to talk to.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing yours there. We've got another question here, which was, just someone was saying, I remember going to an event and just stayed there for 4 hours because it was so magical. And now when you're talking about, this lady's realizing why she stayed for 4 hours, what it was that had kept her there. And Al Mercuro mentions lead capture at AI way of capturing info on attendees a booth staffer can use. So he's sent something called usebacktrack.com, which could be a way to use that. That would be a really handy one.
We need all the info.
And we had that we sort of talked earlier about balancing the technology with the human connection and immersive experience. I mean, part of that's what you say of matching the humans that are coming to your event, making sure that it's the stuff that's going to work for them. That's probably the best way to do that. Would you want to add anything else on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And utilizing, I want to focus on the word even written there, balance. It has to be that balance. You want to see, the latest and greatest in technology. You want to experience the latest and greatest in technology, to be able to speak about it. And yet the reason you're coming out of your shell, you're taking that flight, leaving your family, is to have that human connection that's going to bring in all of those insights. So I think that there's a lot of, ways to do it. That previous example of using technology to do matchmaking. So the whole point of it is you're connecting with the right person, but we've leveraged some technology to make sure it is the right person. Balance is that key word. At Zendesk, all of our products are tech forward, but our slogan is the customer is always human. We always need to remember that we have these amazing tools, and these tools are going to create an experience for the human. And I think that's what we've got to do at events too.
That's exactly right. We keep forgetting we're human. And I know there are people who get frustrated that they go to an event and they're thinking, I've come to meet people and I still have to use my phone. But it's using it in the balanced way. So you're not on it just for ages when you're bored, but you're using it to help you go to the next place to meet the right people. So it is getting that absolutely perfectly. Oh, people are asking me some tough questions now. They're saying, what is the quiz question here? What is the best icebreaker? What do you say to people? Your best opening line is, well, it sounds really cheesy. And I've got people sometimes when I'm on stage and I'm doing an icebreaker is just turn to the person next to you, ask their name and ask them what the one thing they really want to get out of the event is. And don't fall for, I want to network or I want to do more business. Get a real qualified, what are you here for? What do you really want to leave at the end of the 3 days having achieved? And when you can get people to give you that line, and even if it's maybe not the first thing you say, but you make sure you get that from them, that's giving you this really, real kind of concrete, not concrete is the wrong word, but really a real thing, a real connection. If I know this, I met this lady called Noelle on day one and she said she wanted this. I really want to know at the end, I haven't seen her or she had to leave early or whatever. I'm going to connect and say, well, did you get what you wanted? Or is there anyone I could have met? Also, I feel it gives me an extra goal throughout the event to maybe find that person for Noelle, which takes away some of the ick of networking where it's all about you. It's like, oh, how could I help Noelle achieve that? Or 10 Noelles. If you're brave enough to find the way to ask that to somebody without freaking them out, any tips? And then what's the other one? I was saying that's my quirky ice. Oh, so many icebreakers though that are quirky. I love the ones when you throw things at people. You know those the bouncy mics? Have you seen those? They're so good. People immediately kind of get involved in those, and it's a really quick, easy one. I mean, I guess if you were brave enough, you could take something around that's really weird with you. I do have a fellow MC who wears a Batman suit, as in a suit with Batman insignia, and he walks around events. That's how he gets people to talk to him.
That's a great way to get people to talk.
Well. Yeah. What about you? Do you have any specific ones that you like to use, Noelle?
Sometimes I'll say, what's the most unique thing you've seen here so far? Because I always have the FOMO of like missing out something that's going on at the event.
Yeah, perfect.
Experiences. And it gets people to already open up about, what they've seen, what they're excited about. You can share what's good and make sure you're not missing anything. But it also, that question kind of took me back to even like my trade show days where there's a lot of people just passing by. No one wants to get sucked into, a deep, long sales conversation when they're just trying to see what's going on at the booth. So we would always open with something extremely, random and friendly, and just get people to talk before we'd ever start talking about our product. One example would be we had oranges, and we'd just be like, "Hey, do you want an orange?" And people would throw people off. They're, "Oh yeah, what's going on here?" And then they talk through things. But those random questions that go through, them asking questions, people coming up to you at first. What do you have going on here? It's all exciting things to break the ice before you get
I like that. What was unique, or what's the best thing you've seen today, or what's blown your mind today? And they go, nothing. You go, okay, that's terrible. What's the worst thing that's happened? Anything. Human things that we want to share. And I think sometimes I know I get some clients who go, but that doesn't sound very worky and that's not related to our topic. And we're like, at the moment, we're just trying to get these human beings to come out of their shell and share a bit more. I mean, we did do one that was pretty brave, was saying, tell me the biggest thing on your mind at the moment that you can't stop thinking about. It doesn't have to be work. Now, there was a couple of women who started talking, and one of them had just had to put her elderly relative into, I think you call it in America, senior care, into an old age pensioners home here. And it was all she could think about. And she just said, I'm freaking out. I just need to get rid of this thought in my head. I need to think about something else today and get involved. But it was lovely because someone else that she spoke to said, oh, we just did that last year. I'm totally in. They had a chat and it kind of got out of her system. They shared these personal things. And then they ended up, being able to get into the workflow, and everybody around the room was moved. It was a situation everybody could imagine themselves in. And one woman had cleared her mind of the stressful thing, had some support. Everybody had gone, and everyone had a connection then. Everyone was warmer and more engaged. Now, obviously, you're not going to get everyone sharing, but even if a few people do that and are brave enough to stand up and say it in a networking session, you've changed the environment of the room from, bye, sell, make contacts, to human beings.
Yes, it taps into that emotional feeling we talked about on the sensory level. You might not want to be brave and say the thing that's really on your mind, but you might resonate completely with those that did, and it'll tap into that feeling and bring you out questions of yourself, and maybe bring down your shell to start talking to someone later, like on the side, and be like, yeah, I also had that. I didn't want to stand up and say it, but I was really moved by this, and it opens up those organic networking opportunities that, once again, we got to do structured, we got to do organic, we got to bring it out throughout the whole event.
Well, you see the way it's speakers at the end of a talk. A lot of people, they might not have had that many questions when they were on the stage, and loads of people flock to them afterwards because they're so desperate for a human-to-human connection that maybe they were too scared to ask, or there wasn't an opportunity. So you're proving that that's what people are really, really craving, and they maybe didn't want to stick their hand up. That wasn't the way for them. So again, if we can bring in using the technology to allow those questions to be asked in maybe an anonymous way. It's lovely, isn't it, on the chat system that we're using now? People can ask questions. Nathan's, what's the funniest question someone's ever asked you at a networking event? And he's just saying, are you here for the free food or the connections? Which is a great one. And they both ended up laughing.
I have to use that as our networking pickup line moving forward.
Oh, yes, there's going to be so many. What's the networking line that worked best for you, that led you to the best contact, or something like that? That's a great idea. Well, it's been a really good conversation. I think, me personally,
I really enjoyed it, and I just thank you to everyone who has taken the time to come here. We all, need this inspiration, and while everything we said might not have hit a chord, hopefully that one little thing that we discussed today might have, inspired you to make a connection. And I'd love to keep the connection going. I think someone mentioned, how do you keep the connection going? Finding us on LinkedIn.
That's the question we didn't. Yeah. How do you keep it going after the event and for the next event? Because obviously you can't bring in your own networking tool necessarily, because people won't keep using it. So how do you keep them stimulated? Let's go with that one.
And it's a good question. It brings it back to I'm looking for that's where I'd love to have, lean in more on the tech side, is making those connections when I have this random conversation with you at an event. Claire, how do I follow up with Claire after? For me specifically, I go the old school of just looking them up on LinkedIn and writing it down. But when you think about those designed experiences where, we talked about those networking pods, those people are all exchanging the information, and then you can kind of create a group from there. I did an event where I was part of a, executive roundtable. And, we exchanged emails as a group, and someone, a month later said, hey, I have this problem. Does anyone have a case that they've done this before? And we can all chime in after that. So enabling those maybe networking abilities and encouraging people to share right there and continuing the group conversation following it is such a great way to do that. And we all have haven't thought about this group for a while, but let's keep the conversation going.
Yeah, and you'll all remember in your own personal life, if you've gone and done something and then someone set up a WhatsApp group afterwards, some of them just die. They just die, or you come off it because people put so much random inane stuff in that you haven't got time for. Some of them just thrive, and it was because the experiences that you had at that event. So it's a vicious circle. If the event is absolutely amazing and immersive, then the overall connections will get better and better as you kind of go along. So yeah, you've got to get it right all the way through. So everybody seems very happy. Will there be a recording of this? I have no idea. I can say I'm hoping Eventcombo would record it. I imagine in fact, no, they do, because I watched two actually on YouTube. So it will be on YouTube at some point. And I would suggest that whoever you've got an email from when you joined, you can reply to them and ask them. I don't know who I'm passing that off to. Swiftly.
I'll try and put it up on the profile if it's a recording. So
yeah, it will. And I'll try and find it and share it on my LinkedIn post when I get it. So there you go. Pass that on to somebody at Eventcombo who's going, thanks, Claire. Thanks a lot. Yeah, love doing that. Okay, well, look, thank you very much to everybody for joining. Just a couple of things to share with you. There will be another one of these great conversations, not with us, but with some other amazing people, which is on March the 12th. And I'm imagining it's going to be women because it is focusing on women's empowerment. You can sign up to the link, which should hopefully be appearing in the chat now, but otherwise watch out for what Eventcombo is doing on LinkedIn. Please connect with us on LinkedIn if you'd like to continue the conversation. Yeah, please do connect with us. And maybe just one more question from you, maybe Noelle. Any final thoughts you have, or sum up maybe of what we've talked about that you think, if you're an event planner, do this year?
The summary I think of our whole conversation is think outside the box, evolve your events each year, and always have that, goal to make an immersive experience from start to finish, a top of mind. Immersive can go before they attend. I talked about the networking pod, engaging with people to engage with each other ahead of time and start making those connections, figuring out how to do it, in the following part, but also just, reimagining your event each year and how can you tap into creating those experiences that feel personalized to the people that are there. It feels like you thought about me. I'm coming to this event and it feels like you've designed it for me on all of that level. And we can do that through data. We can do that through understanding the audience. And we can do that through doing what you did today and attending, the sessions that might give you some exciting random ideas to implement in your own event. So I think you're already on the path.
Brilliantly summed up. I mean, the main thing is just keep evolving and keep just thinking, would I like that if I was an attendee? Or would my attendee like that? Would they feel involved? Would they feel included at that bit? Brilliant. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic rest of the day, everybody. And thank you very much, Noelle.
Thank you, Claire. This was wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.